My supervisor is known for being difficult. I've had multiple people from various departments complain to me about her. She's the manager of the workspace, meaning she manages offices, desks, and meeting rooms. I was hired to help lighten her workload. I'm also a receptionist and do reports for a few hours per week for the site leader. We have a shared email inbox for the workspace requests. I answer and take action on 80% of the emails. It has gotten to the point that most of the emails are addressed to me directly, even though she's the actual manager of it and has been there for 7 years, compared to my 6 months. My boyfriend works in a different department, and his boss joked that she and the other higher-ups go to me directly now because I'm nice. I suspected this, but this confirmed it for me. She keeps giving me tasks that seem utterly pointless and will change her original instructions. She wanted me to survey all 6 of the site buildings to make sure the map is up to date. I noted things like cabinets or tables that moved, but apparently I was supposed to count how many chairs are in each room of 50 offices and 70 meeting rooms so that the map reflects this. Then today she snapped at me for not including fire hydrants and garbage cans, etc. I can't predict her. She also wants me to ensure each room has the right number of chairs, and it's driving the maintenance guys crazy. Chairs move, people take them from room to room all the time. Even when I fix things, I check a week later and the chairs will be wrong again as life happens. Everything I do is wrong, and she's never happy. She tries to get me involved in her little office fight, and I've started my emails with, Emma has instructed me to. So I get less flack. She's really angry that the site lead wants me to work at least 1 day a week under him and 2 other directors. He likes me. She is doing everything she can to say I'm too busy to do extra work when this would be great for my career. I wouldn't have so much work to do if she didn't make up nonsense and find mistakes in everything I do, so nothing is ever finished. Today during the map survey, she said she's sick of me doing things wrong, and if I'm not fit for this job, I should just say it. I started crying a lot and played it off as being about my personal life. Not entirely untrue, as my grandma's is going to die very soon and my depression has come back these last few months. But her constant criticism was the reason I cried. She apologized for being too harsh, but I'm sick of it. We have the same manager and my boyfriend thinks I should tell him everything. I've asked the manager for a meeting under the guise of discussing my role and issues I've been facing in it. I'm thinking of just asking for clarity as to what I should actually be doing, as opposed to snitching. What should I do? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I would tell the higher-ups above her that she is lying about you and trying to get you to leave. I bet they already know that. The Darkest Beer has a good suggestion. Somehow the company has let this woman stay. She is not going to change in my book, even with a reprimand, as negative, critical people always believe it's someone else's fault. I guess as long as you stay there, try to take her criticism and know it has nothing to do with your abilities. It has everything to do with her being insecure about her own job. If you report her to HR, she may make your life a bit worse, but she is not allowed to retaliate, or you have grounds for harassment. My question is, do you want to fight this out, or do you want to quit? You wouldn't be a weak person for quitting, because no one can stand being treated like this. And if you find a new job, there are people like her in the working world. But a good company wouldn't let someone with poor people skills manage people. My 2 cents. Comment 2. Ultimately, you are fighting against a toxic person at a disorganized organization. I work in the facilities management industry, although not in any similar role to what you are doing. My recommendation is to go back to processes and standardization of work. Why should a particular task be done? To what standards must it be done? Where is this documented? Is it worth it to the business to engage in this task? Start giving shape to your organization's work, thinking in a structured way about the work you and your team are doing. If someone new were to come tomorrow and you had to hand over without talking or even seeing them, what would you expect them to know? In chaos lies opportunities. Comply with this toxic individual in a professional and structured way that improves your organization and you'll quickly move past them. If you are looking for a way out in the future, this experience will be a charm in finding your next job. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So where do I even start? The past month has been pretty tough, and not in a good way. Remember how I was getting walked all over by Emma? Well, it's only gotten worse. And now there's a new twist that's left everyone reeling. It all kicked off with Emma announcing out of the blue that she's taking an extended leave of absence. No explanation, just poof, gone. The office was buzzing with rumors. Some said it was a health issue. Others whispered about a secret affair gone wrong. But the bottom line was, with her gone, the chaos she'd been reigning over was suddenly my problem. And guess who got to step into her shoes unofficially? Yep, yours truly. I should have been thrilled about the opportunity, right? But it felt like I was set up to fail. The workload doubled overnight, and the expectations were sky high. I was drowning in emails, meetings, and those ridiculous chair counts. And the worst part? The higher-ups seemed to think I had some kind of magic wand to fix all the problems Emma left behind. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, the site leader decided to implement a new efficiency plan. This meant reshuffling the entire office layout. You can imagine the uproar that caused. People were attached to their spaces, and suddenly I was the bad guy for enforcing these changes. I spent days mediating disputes and soothing egos, all while trying to keep up with my own work. But here's the kicker. In the midst of all this, I discovered that Emma had been sabotaging me. She'd been telling people I was responsible for decisions that were actually hers. I found emails where she threw me under the bus, blaming me for mistakes and delays. It was like she'd been setting me up to take the fall for her own incompetence. I was furious, but what could I do? I had no proof, and with Emma gone, there was no one to confront. So I kept my head down and worked harder, trying to prove myself to everyone. But it was like no matter what I did, it was never enough. And then, just as I was starting to get a handle on things, another news dropped. The company announced a merger. We were joining forces with our biggest competitor, and that meant layoffs were coming. The uncertainty was evident. Everyone was on edge, wondering who would stay and who would go. In the midst of this, one of the maintenance guys, let's call him Mike, did something unexpected. He took it upon himself to completely overhaul the chair situation. He worked overtime, cataloging and redistributing chairs to every room according to the new efficiency plan. It was a monumental task, and he did it without being asked. His actions had a ripple effect. Suddenly, other departments started pitching in to help with the transition. It was like Mike's dedication sparked a sense of camaraderie that had been missing for so long. But just when things were starting to look up, Emma returned, and she was not happy about the changes. She went on a rampage, undoing all the progress we'd made. She clashed with the site leader, refused to cooperate with the merger team, and worst of all, she started targeting me again. I was at my breaking point. I couldn't take the backstabbing and the constant criticism anymore. So I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I stood up to her. In front of everyone, I called her out on her behavior. I told her that the office was better off without her toxic influence. It was a moment of pure catharsis, and to my surprise, people backed me up. They'd seen enough of Emma's antics to know I was telling the truth. The aftermath was messy. Emma was put on probation, and I was officially promoted to her position. It was a bittersweet victory. I'd earned the respect of my colleagues, but at what cost? The office was still in turmoil from the merger, and now I had to lead us through it. So here we are, a month later, and I'm still picking up the pieces. But there's a sense of hope now, a feeling that maybe we can get through this together. And as for Emma, well, let's just say she's keeping a low profile these days. Thanks for reading this far. It's been a rough ride, but I'm hanging in there. My boyfriend hid his unemployment and rekindled an old flame. But when his ex came back. Pregnant after a year of lies, I made sure he felt the sting of betrayal and left him alone with his regrets. My 32-year-old female, boyfriend, 33-year-old male, and I have been dating for a year, 6 months in person, 6 months long distance. He is a good and honest man, and despite me being thousands of miles away, I've never doubted his fidelity. He shares details about his day, and we speak almost every day. The problem is I feel so unloved and unseen, and I hate that I feel this way because he consistently says that he loves me. It feels like he doesn't put effort into the relationship, and here is why. 1. We don't go on dates. He has taken me on 2 dates since we started talking. The first was right before we started dating, and the second was on my birthday. I've told him I like going out and shared a list of some of my favorite restaurants. I planned several dates, taken him out for dinner, and planned activities for us to do together. Unless I initiate something, our time together is him watching TV in the living room while I read something in the bedroom. One time, I planned a home date where we'd cook together and then watch a movie. After I finished cooking, 2 hours while he watched TV, I realized he hadn't bothered to pick one. 2. Flowers. I really like flowers, and I've told him this. If I want flowers, I have to ask him. A few days ago, I decided to fly back to Australia for a week to spend some time with him and my family. Haven't seen them in 6 months. I asked him to pick me up from the airport and to get me flowers. When we got to his place, there were no flowers, and no food either. I was tired having spent 17 plus hours on the journey home and loathed that I had to make dinner. When I woke up, he had left for work, and there was no breakfast. Somehow I thought him knowing I was coming would make him make some effort. 3. I enjoy giving and receiving gifts. I have received one gift from him, a passport holder just before I left for my year abroad. On the other hand, I can count over 15 things I have bought and gifted him. Some small things I'd notice he needed, and other bigger items I know he likes. When I raise this, he gets defensive and accuses me of keeping count of the things I do for him. 4. We don't do things together. One time I told him how I like that he does things with his siblings/family every week, including lunches, dinner, clubbing, trips, etc., and wished we did more together. He accused me of wanting to tear him from his family and trying to change him. I invite him when I'm hanging out with his friends. I've never met his 5. Between Christmas and New Year, he went completely MIA. When work resumed, he messaged me and told me he had been so busy during the holidays with his family, he didn't have time to call me. I was stuck abroad having my first ever Christmas away from my family. I had hoped he'd at least call me at midnight on New Year's Eve. I like those kinds of cheesy little things. These things are important to me. And while he says he loves me, it's hard for me to feel it when he doesn't put effort into our relationship. I'm now thinking of pulling the plug, and the thought breaks my heart because I love him. I want effort and reciprocity. I know he loves me, and I'm wondering if I am being petty. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. No, you can break up with your partner for whatever reason you want, or no reason at all, petty or not. You are under no obligation to be in a relationship you aren't happy in. This isn't petty. He's not putting the effort into the relationship, so there's no reason for you to stay. Comment 2. A relationship should be more than just one person begging the other one for any consideration. Having food and a restful environment after a long flight would be the bare minimum for a distantly acquainted houseguest, never mind someone you profess to love. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So I flew back to Australia, right? I thought things would be different, but they weren't. The day after I arrived, I found out he'd been laid off from his job. That's why he'd been so distant. He was ashamed and didn't know how to tell me. I felt bad for being so hard on him, but it didn't excuse everything. Then my best friend told me she saw him out with another woman. My heart sank. I confronted him and he admitted it was his ex. He said they were just talking because she was going through a tough time. I didn't know what to believe. I was so angry I packed my bags and stayed with my parents. While I was there, my dad got sick. Really sick. It was like the world was crashing down on me. My boyfriend came over, helped around the house, cooked for us, and was there for me like never before. It was confusing. He was acting like the partner I always wanted, but I couldn't forget the betrayal. A few days later, my dad's test results came back. It wasn't as bad as we thought. Relief washed over us, but the stress of it all made me realize something. Life's too short. I decided to give my boyfriend another chance, but I told him we needed to work on our communication. Things were okay for a while. We started doing more together, he was more attentive, and I thought maybe we'd turned a corner. But then, I got a message from his ex. She said she was pregnant and it was his. I didn't want to believe it, but when I asked him, he couldn't look me in the eye. I was devastated. I didn't know what to do. I stayed because I loved him, and I thought we could work through it. But deep down, I knew I was accepting a terrible situation. I was trying to convince myself that it would be okay, that we could be a family, but I was just scared to be alone. Thanks for reading this. My boyfriend's dad cheated on his mom and he started acting just like him. So when he lost his job and begged me to move states with him, I left him and his baggage behind and chose freedom. Instead, a year into the relationship, I was very happy and felt like I found the one. He was smart, kind, handsome, a gentleman, and a lot of fun. My friends would tell me that he was a catch and has it all together. When he moved in with me, things started to unfold. I had been dealing with this for 3 years and a total of being with him for 4 years. He is very selfish and has many issues with sharing, compromising, and not even aware of basic responsibilities in the house. Everything is on me because he doesn't know how and doesn't care. He acts completely entitled. He is extremely opinionated, pessimistic, disagreeable, and argumentative. If things don't go his way, he loses it, and I would label him as a difficult person. My boyfriend would tell me bits and pieces about his dad and how he treats his mom. His mom left her country and entire family to be with his dad. Then she realized she never gets what she wants. Her feelings don't matter, and her man doesn't fix any problems unless it is something for himself. He doesn't take care of her, and he takes care of himself. His mom also has to work full-time. His dad is extremely selfish and doesn't have a good reputation with others either. Multiple family friends cut ties with his family because of his dad. My boyfriend had told me his dad calls his mom stupid if she forgets to bring the ketchup for the hamburgers. His dad had belittled his mom in front of me, and he looked proud. He also is really rude to service workers for no reason, and it is very embarrassing. Unfortunately, we once accidentally saw a dating app on his dad's phone, but I'm not sure if he is cheating on her. The worst of the worst, they have a shared bank account, and both of their incomes go to that account. His dad controls the bank account, and he bought assets with that money, and of course, his mom's name is not on any of the assets. His mom has a 6-figure job. His mom has depression and is on antidepressants. At one point, she was drinking a lot and had an alcohol problem. It makes me so angry and sad when I think about his mom. I cry sometimes just thinking about some of the things she tells me. Some of the stuff she tells me is just so sad and unfair. Someone so empathetic and kind does not deserve any of this. My boyfriend is in denial to accept she is depressed mainly because of his dad, and that his dad is narcissistic, which is really upsetting. Everything now makes sense as to why my boyfriend is the way he is. I see the resemblance between him and his dad. My boyfriend sees all of this and he doesn't do anything about it. Sometimes he even makes excuses trying to justify his dad's poor behavior. He is the only child, and it is safe to say that he is not a caring son. He acts like a kid and will show up at the door if there is free food. He knows his mom has depression and doesn't care much to spend time with her or take care of her. It is devastating to see. When it comes to our relationship, I am not like his mom because I don't allow his poor behavior. So we argue a lot because I speak up and don't allow his selfishness. However, this is very tiring. Also, he acts like a kid and doesn't prioritize things that have to be done first. He prioritizes having fun first and not having things in order. He is not ambitious with his career and is a very lazy worker, but he believes he is so important and smart that they cannot afford to fire him even if his manager is pissed off. However, he did change a bit over the years, and he is more empathetic and has more emotion than his dad. Now, for a few comments before the update, should this be enough reason to end this relationship? Honey, any reason is enough to end a relationship. If you are not happy or just do not want to be with this person, there does not need to be some great big reason that is enough. You do not need to justify ending any romantic relationship, even if your partner thinks you do. When you said he looks proud when his dad insulted his mom, I felt sick. You seem very kind. Please leave. He is horrible and will not change. What if something happens and you are in a wheelchair or something? Will he care for you? Hopefully that will not happen, but who knows? He is awful, and you deserve better. Now for the update. Thank you for sticking around for the latest. Just when I thought things couldn't get more intense, they did. Last week, my boyfriend's mom called me, sobbing. She had finally confronted her husband about the dating app we saw, and it blew up. He didn't deny it, just shrugged and told her she was being paranoid. But she found messages, dates, the whole 9 yards. She was devastated. And guess what, my boyfriend? He just said his dad was going through a phase. A phase? Seriously? Meanwhile, our own situation was spiraling. I had been pushing him to help more around the house, to be more present. But it was like talking to a wall. He'd nod, agree, then nothing would change. It was like living with a ghost who left dirty dishes and laundry everywhere. Then, out of the blue, he got fired. His boss had had enough of his lazy attitude. He came home, threw his stuff on the couch, and just started playing video games. I was furious. We needed his income, and there he was, acting like a teenager on summer break. I reached out to his mom, hoping she could talk some sense into him, but she was in no state to help. She confessed she was thinking of leaving his dad, but she was scared. She had no assets to her name, and she was worried about making it on her own. I felt for her, I really did. But I was drowning too. The tension at home was unbearable. We fought about money, about chores, about his parents. It was like a never-ending cycle of disappointment. I was starting to see that maybe he wasn't the one for me after all. Maybe he was too much like his dad, and I was becoming like his mom, trapped in a cycle of unhappiness. Then, the bombshell dropped. His mom called again, this time with a shaky voice. She said she had left his dad. She had packed a bag and was staying with a friend. She was scared but determined. My boyfriend was shocked. He couldn't believe it. For the first time, I saw a crack in his armor. He was scared too, scared of ending up alone like his dad. That night, we had a long, hard talk. I told him I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't be with someone who refused to grow up, who mirrored the worst parts of his father. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something change. He promised to try, to really try this time. The next day, he started looking for jobs. He cleaned the house without me asking. He even cooked dinner. It was like he was a different person. But I was wary. I'd seen false promises before. As the week went on, he kept at it. He was trying, I could see that. But I was exhausted, emotionally drained from years of fighting the same battles. I started to wonder if love was enough to fix what was broken between us. Then, yesterday, he got a job offer. It was a good one, better pay, better hours. He was ecstatic, said it was a new beginning for us. But as I watched him celebrate, I felt a pang of something I couldn't quite place. Was it fear? Sadness? I wasn't sure. That night, as we lay in bed, he turned to me and said he had something to tell me. My heart sank. What now? He took a deep breath and said he had been offered the job in another state. He wanted to take it, wanted us to move, to start fresh. I was stunned. This was the change he needed, the push to become the man I hoped he could be. But it was also a huge step, a leap into the unknown. Could I leave my job, my friends, my life, for a chance at happiness with him? Could I trust that he wouldn't fall back into old habits? I lay there next to him thinking about his mom. She had taken a leap too, into a scary new world without the man she had spent her life with. If she could do it, could I? But then again, if she could leave, maybe I could too. Maybe I didn't need to follow him to know if he would change. Maybe I needed to follow my own path. I told him I needed time to think about it. He nodded, understanding. We fell asleep in silence, both of us on the edge of a new beginning, or maybe an end. Thank you for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.